All right, let's pray. God of grace and glory, we come before you this evening once again, thankful for this opportunity to gather together as your people, to share with one another in study of your word. And we pray that once again you would open our hearts and our minds as we read together, and that your Holy Spirit would move in and among us. We lift up this time to you. May it be yours. Bless it, please, and bless all those here gathered uh, across space and ready to share together. We pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen. Okay. All right. So last week we had David refused to kill Saul, even though he had a chance. And Saul finally admits, you are going to be king. I know you're going to be king. So it was the first time that we had that from the mouth of Saul saying to David, I know you're going to be king. So now we'll take a little bit of a detour from Saul for this chapter on Abigail. Okay, so we're in chapter 5 tonight, David and Abigail. And let's just dive right into it with verses 1 through 13. Who would like to read for us?
I'll do that. I got a little bit tickled, and mine says chapter 25, and it's got Samuel's death. And then Samuel died.
And that's it.
That's it. All right.
Yep.
Then Samuel died, and all Israel gathered together and mourned for him and buried him at his house in Ramah. And David arose and went down to the wilderness of Paran. Now there was a man in Maon, whose business was in Carmel, and the man was very rich, and he had 3,000 sheep and 1,000 goats. And it came about while he was shearing the sheep in Carmel. Now the man's name was Nabal, and his wife's name was Abigail. And the woman was intelligent and beautiful in appearance, but the man was harsh and evil in his dealings, and he was a Calebite. That David heard in the wilderness that Nabal was shearing his sheep. So David sent 10 young men, and David said, go to the young man, go up to Carmel, visit Nabal, and greet him in my name. And thus you will say, have a long life, peace be on you, and peace be on your house, and peace be on all that you have. And now I have heard that you have sheared. Now your shepherds have been with us, and we have not insulted them, nor have they missed anything all the days they were in Carmel. Ask your young men, and they will tell you. Therefore, let my young men find favor in your eyes, for we have come up on a festive day. Please give whatever you find at hand to your servants and to your son David. Then David's young men came, they spoke to Nabal according to all these words in David's name. Then they waited. But Nabal answered David's servants and said, who is David? And who is this son of Jesse? There are many servants today who are each breaking away from his master. Shall I then take my bread and my water and my meat and have slaughtered that I have slaughtered for my shearers, and give them to men whose origin I do not know? So David's young men retraced their way back, and they came and told him according to all these words. And David said to his men, each of you gird on your sword. So each man girded on his sword, and David also girded on his sword. And about 400 men went up behind David, while 200 stayed with the baggage.
Hi, thank you. Right. So yes, at the beginning of the chapter, we get the note that Samuel died. all Israel assembled and mourned for him. So now's a good opportunity to reflect on Samuel and his life. Both books are named after him. And I find that curious that this is named Samuel instead of David. Why do you think that is?
Well, when we started out in Samuel, David didn't even exist yet. So there's,
But why is there a second Samuel? Why isn't it first David?
Well, I can answer that one actually.
Oh, okay.
Originally, it was just Samuel. And it was all on one scroll. And eventually, the church, they decided to split it into parts so it would fit better. And we're split into 4 parts. And then they combined that and made it into 2. I think just in order to have it fit on the scrolls better. That's what I'm remembering. It said here at the beginning of my commentary why it was. But they decided to put the split at Saul's death.
Well, is it first and second Samuel because of the influence of Samuel over these people? And even though Samuel is dead, in the second book of Samuel, still this influence is there. I don't know. An answer to the question, why is it Samuel?
It's because Samuel anointed both of them, the first 2 kings.
Mhm.
makes sense too.
There's a lot of the books are prophets. Samuel was a prophet. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, David wasn't.
That's a good point. So David, as close as he is to God, is still a political leader. Samuel's a religious leader specifically, is what you're saying. Yeah. And Samuel is the one who has anointed both Saul and David. And so he's sort of the authorized spokesperson for God. That is giving divine authority to David for being king. So here, okay, it says the books of 1st and 2nd Samuel were originally one book. The oldest Hebrew manuscript from Qumran includes both 1st and 2nd Samuel on a single scroll. The Talmud references allude to a single book of Samuel. The division into 2 books was probably introduced by the Greek translators, perhaps to create scrolls of a more manageable size. In the Greek manuscripts, the books of Samuel and Kings are divided into 4 books called 1st through 4 Kingdoms. But then later, in the 15th century, the division into 1st and 2nd Samuel became more common. So there you go.
You're in the first verse, I guess. First verse. Yours said, it said they went into a different. Mine says into the desert of Milan, and you had a different name.
Wilderness of Paran.
Yeah, mine says male also.
The Hebrew says Paran, And the Greek says mound, mound, mound. And since the very next sentence says there was a man in Maon,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the translations just go with what the Greek says. Perhaps the Greek was trying to fix the Hebrew.
I just thought it was interesting.
Sounds like two different places.
It does. So yeah, that remember this is where David was. The wild goat rocks in the
Yeah.
wilderness of Maon. Last chapter over there by the Dead Sea.
Close to Qumran.
Qumran is more on the northern end of the Dead
Yes.
Sea.
So, well, this is not the last that we hear from Samuel. We do have another chapter that features him pretty prominently, Samuel's ghost. So, whatever you want to call it. His spirit comes back to speak with Saul. But we hadn't really heard much from Samuel for a while now. So yeah, it is curious that we get this note here that he died. My commentary said perhaps they waited to say that he died until after Saul had acknowledged that David is king, which he did in the last chapter. Because Samuel was the one who had secretly anointed David as king. Everybody else had started calling David king, but it wasn't until the last chapter that Saul acknowledges you're going to be king. Well, now we'll move on to this story about Nabal. Nabal, which is the Hebrew word meaning fool.
Says that in my footnotes.
His name. So Nabal's name literally means fool.
And Abigail alludes to it.
was it?
Seems like a silly thing to think of. Yeah.
He's gonna say his parents didn't like him.
This is the wounds.
Well, and why is Nabal a fool?
Because he's got a beautiful wife and he treats her mean. He's just a.
But good answer. There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he just sounds like he's just a crab.
That can happen on any given day.
He seems more interested in his wealth than
Money.
how you treat people.
Yeah, but to stand up for him, David sends these guys to him and says, "Oh, now we didn't do anything to your people here, so give us all this stuff." And he's like, "I don't know you. Why would I give you my food?"
Well, that part's understandable, but back here said
Well,
now
that's understandable. But why is David almost demanding it? He doesn't know that David's been anointed king.
I got the impression, I probably read it somewhere, that this was all a way to get David's 400 men some food. They were out in the wilderness,
Yeah.
goat neck or whatever it is, and needed some sustenance. So they came up with this scheme of going to Nabal and sending the boys into Nabal and saying, "Oh, we haven't heard anybody, and we're glad to see you. And I see it's festival time. Let's set the table."
Yeah, I understand David's side, but at the same time, Nabal, he doesn't know who they are. So why should he give them
Yeah.
their stuff?
Who is the son of Jesse?
Yeah, but the people, it says all along that the people recognize David as king. So I don't know that.
He was a
And
fool.
the king,
Yeah.
you know, if he wants something, he says, "Give it to me," and you give it. They,
Well,
My Bible notes, said that if we sympathize with Jamal, it is because customs are different today. First, simple hospitality demanded that travelers, any number of them, be fed. Jamal was very rich and could have easily afforded to meet David's request. Second, David wasn't asking for a handout. He and his men had been protecting Nabal's workforce, and part of Nabal's prosperity was due to David's vigilance.
But it doesn't sound like the ball knew he
that right?
was protecting his.
Yeah,
Ask him.
yeah. Yeah, he
Is that a right
says,
interpretation out of my Bible?
yeah, when he says, not only we did them no harm, they missed nothing. Or nothing of theirs was missing. So what he's saying is shepherding's a dangerous job. I mean, David used to do it. And so he's saying, y'all didn't lose any sheep while we were out there, essentially protecting the flock. So now, we could argue, I think, over, okay, that's, what, that's kind of like the guy coming up to you on the street, washing your window and then saying, give me some,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it kind of goes back to what you said too, the hospitality laws that they have.
but the customs are different.
Yeah, well, and I drove a car up to Chicago for a very Orthodox Jewish family and dropped it off. And they invited me in for food, to relax, to take a nap, and I mean, just, they could not offer enough.
You can't eat enough either.
No, and they were
He
wonderful,
didn't eat.
wonderful people. And so, and I think they're in Deuteronomy or wherever that those hospitality laws are written. I'm not sure which book it is.
Well, I'll go back to Genesis 18. Abraham and Sarah are just hanging out by the oaks of Mamre. And these three guys come walking
Right.
up to their tent, and Abraham doesn't know who they are. They're not glowing. They just look like three regular dudes. And he says, he stops them and says, don't keep going. Don't pass by. Come here, sit down. Let me get some water. Let me get some bread for you. And he goes to Sarah, make ready 3 measures of flour. Now, I think I read somewhere that 3 measures of flour is like this much. It's a lot, from what I remember back when we studied this a few years ago. And then curds and milk, had a whole calf prepared while they ate under the tree. And that was, that radical hospitality was standard. That's what you did. And I think what the text is going to great pains to tell us that Nabal is a rich man.
Yes. It sounds, all those sheep and goats he had.
It flat out point blank says in my Bible, the man was very rich.
Yes.
So I gotta think, he's acting like this stuff is for my people. I gotta feed them. And, if I was, today, somebody who was not well off, and I went up and asked for food, is I really wish I could, but it's all I can do to put something on the table for my kids. That I would understand, but that's not this. I think he's got plenty to spare. And later on in the story, he ends up just kind of eating and drinking himself into a stupor at night too. So he's got plenty.
When it says he is a Calebite, what is that?
So my commentary said that's a prominent clan from the tribe of Judah.
Oh, okay. Mine doesn't give anything about that,
Yeah.
the explanation.
Yeah, he was a prominent clan from the tribe of Judah, which makes David's marriage to Abigail later strategic. Yeah, okay. One of the most influential clans of Judah with its chief city in Hebron, which is where David is later crowned king.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
so you're not the only one. There's been a number of theologians and commentators and people have read this saying David seems like he's extorting the guy a little bit, you know.
Almost how it sounds.
But then my guy's pointing out, you know, that is how it sounds to us today,
Mhm.
but the culture is different or was different. And you know, maybe that should be our culture, I think.
Well, don't get me wrong, I'm a very hospitable person.
Oh, I know.
But don't
Yeah.
come and tell me you have to give me this.
Right.
Or bring 400 people, I don't know.
The amount of cookies she makes at Christmas time, you could feed them.
Before we start.
Yeah, it is a lot. It's actually 600 people, right? Because they
Yeah.
200 people they left behind. Um, so yeah, so what is Nabal's response here?
No way. Let's see.
Verse 10. Verse 10 is important.
It says, who is this David? Who's this son of Jesse?
Basically, it's calling David a nobody.
He says there's all sorts of slaves running around.
It says many servants are breaking away from their masters.
Mhm.
Um,
He was Saul's servant.
Mhm.
But
He's accusing David, right, of breaking with Saul when it was the other way around, really. Yeah.
So, Chris, I have a question.
Yeah, Norma.
Would Nabal have known of David before this situation came up?
I find it hard to believe that there's anybody in the kingdom that doesn't know the drama going on right now between
With all the
David
fighting with,
and
okay.
Saul.
Mhm.
It sounds to me, honestly, this verse, it sounds to me like Nabal is a Saul loyalist. He's on Saul's side and he say, hey, aren't you the servant that ran away from his master? You know, I kind of feel like everybody kind of knows.
Well, he said,
As
who
the
is
kids
the
would say
son of
these days,
Jesse?
T. So
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he
the
did tell
drama.
who his father was.
Right.
When-
Right.
Right.
Well, it is, and he being a Calebite, which is supposed to be an influential tribe from Judah, I would think they would know the politics of the day.
Yeah.
Unless he's
And being-
lost in his
and
own
being-
world.
And being wealthy and probably associating with other wealthy people. Maybe he's just saying that to be obstinate. Or who does this guy
he
think
is.
he is? I don't know.
He is described as surly and mean,
Right.
and his name is the Fool.
Good thing he didn't have social media back then.
Oh.
Who would name their kid that if that's what the word meant?
What was that?
I said, who would name their kid Nabal if they knew it meant fool? I mean, he's going to have trouble from first grade on.
Maybe Dad did something, or maybe he did something his dad looked at. I don't know.
I don't know. There's some wild names out there that, you know,
Sure.
people name their kids and
Well, the guy across the street from us is Nabil.
No, that's his son.
That's his son.
His son's Nabil.
Yeah.
I can't pronounce his name.
We
But-
had people in our neighborhood name, their last name was Baum, Baum. And so they had a child and
Boy,
the boy and the father named him Adam and just sat there and laughed and thought that was funny.
Yeah, I remember reading
back.
that book, Freakonomics, in high school, and one of the things it talked about was naming. And there was a story told about somebody, and I think these were true stories, but that somebody had named one son winner and the other son loser. So winner, loser went on to be the successful, CEO of Fortune 500 company and all this other. Winner ended up in jail.
George Foreman named all his George.
Mhm.
Even the girls.
Yeah. Oh, George.
Well, Frank Zappa named his child Moon Unit 1.
So there's, all sorts of instances of people naming their kids wild things, and
Yes.
yeah, I don't know, maybe Naval, maybe maybe that wasn't his name, but that became his name. Over time and telling this story, and they decided, what was that guy's name? I don't know. He was a fool, so
It was a nickname.
or a nickname, yeah.
Like there's a sports guy on TV that he got the nickname Booger. And he stays and he stays that way on the football announcer. And it kills my husband and I to sit there and watch him, and they call him Booger on TV.
Mhm.
But his mom nicknamed him that.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
So David's response to Nabal's response is, everybody put on a sword, we're going in.
Mhm.
Yeah, he says, who is this David guy? He said, you're gonna find out.
You're gonna find out.
And that, I think, is the part that concerns me. So,
It also says that, he left 200 people stayed with the supplies. Well, if he had supplies, that he needed 200 people to guard.
Right. Maybe it's not guns, but
it was guns.
spears,
Like,
all that, because he didn't want Saul to come along and get one of those spears.
Right. My spear was fine.
Must be something.
It's a go.
Saul couldn't hit the broadside of the barn.
Yeah.
Well, it was for a festive day.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe
That was the other.
in order to, a festive day would be a proper sacrifice to the Lord, right? So maybe he didn't have the proper food or whatever in those supplies might not be what was needed for the festive day.
Yeah, he might have needed a lamb,
Mhm.
perfect lamb, and he wasn't gonna touch any of his without permission.
Until he denied him, then he was just gonna go take it all.
Yeah, I imagine they probably have a lot of other supplies beyond provisions, food, and then it's a feast day, so this is a special occasion, and who knows how long they've been in the wilderness. So anytime that they can probably take advantage of these hospitality rules, probably there were special rules on feast day, and I don't know about you guys, but Thanksgiving coming up, welcoming people into your home in order to have a big meal. It's a custom, and maybe this was a custom that they had. So, but yeah, I'm not thrilled with David's response. So thank goodness for Abigail. So let's read about Abigail here. Let's see, it's a bit of a longer section here, but I want to get her whole speech in. So can we read verses 14 to 31?
But one of the young men told Abigail, Nabal's wife, David sent messengers out of the wilderness to salute our master, and he shouted insults at them. Yet the men were very good to us, and we suffered no harm, and we never missed anything when we were in the fields as long as we were with them. They were a wall to us both by night and by day. All the while we were with them keeping the sheep. Now, therefore, know this and wonder what you should do, for evil has been decided against our master and against all this house. He is so ill-natured that no one can speak to him. Then Abigail hurried and took 200 loaves, 2 skins of wine, 5 sheep readily dressed, 5 measures of parched grain, 100 clusters of raisins, and 200 cakes of figs. She loaded them on donkeys and said to her young men, "Go on ahead of me. I am coming after you." But she did not tell her husband, Nabal. As she rode on the donkey and came under cover of the mountain, David and his men came down toward her, and she met them. Now David had said, "Surely it was in vain that I protected all this fellow has in the wilderness, so that nothing was missed out of all that belonged to him, but he has returned me evil for good. God do so to David, and more, if by morning I leave so much as one male of all who belong to him." When Abigail saw David, she hurried and dismounted from the donkey and fell before David on her face, bowing to the ground. She fell at his feet and said, "Upon me alone, my lord, be the guilt. Please let your servant speak in your ears and hear the words of your servant. My lord, do not take seriously this ill-natured fellow, Nabal, for as his name is, so is he. Nabal is his name, and folly is with him. But I, your servant, did not see the young men of my lord whom you sent. Now then, my lord, as the Lord lives and as you yourself live, since the Lord has restrained you from blood guilt and from taking vengeance with your own hand, now let your enemies and those who seek to do evil to my Lord be like Nabal. And now let this present that your servant has brought to my Lord be given to the young men who follow my Lord. Please forgive the trespass of your servant, for the Lord will certainly make my Lord a sure house, because my Lord is fighting the battles of the Lord, and evil shall not be found in you so long as you live. If anyone should rise up to pursue you and to seek your life, the life of my Lord shall be bound in the bundle of the living under the care of the Lord your God. But the lives of your enemies shall be sling out as from the hollow of a sling. When the Lord has done to my Lord according to all the good that he has spoken concerning you, and has appointed you prince over Israel, my Lord shall have no cause of grief or pangs of conscience for having shed blood without cause, or for having saved himself. And when the Lord has dealt well with my Lord, then remember your servant."
Thank you, Ed.
Boy, she really laid it out.
A lot of lords in there.
Yep.
Yeah. Although I will remind you that originally all those capitalized lords, that was actually God's name. So
Right.
it later became translated as the Lord. So there would have been half as much if in what she originally said. Because everywhere that she says that, she's saying Yahweh or however they actually pronounced it. So, but goodness, that is a long speech. I think that might be the longest speech that we've had in a while, at least in First Samuel. And it comes from Abigail.
And it's interesting that he is such a mean husband that she has the ability to get all that done. It's, you know, if he's a tyrant,
Hmm.
the servants obeying her would be kind of a stretch. You'd think they'd be worried about.
There might be a lot of things going on behind Nabal's back too that he doesn't know about in the household.
What, that's
Yeah.
me. Yeah.
Because in 24, when she says, let the blame be on me. And then 25, please don't let my Lord pay attention to this worthless man. Nabal.
Mine says despicable.
Despicable, was worthless here. And, you know, because he's for his name is,
Polly is with.
Yeah.
yeah,
Name is
for his
fool.
name is folly.
Mine says
And folly for his name, and folly is with him.
Says is pay no attention to this wicked man.
Yeah.
Why, the ball is just like his name is fool. Folly goes with him.
I get less the sense that Nabal is a tyrant that rules with an iron fist, and more that he's a lazy,
Buffoon.
ignorant, uh, just
Buffoon, that's-
miserly, yes,
You know,
surly.
yeah, Scrooge.
Yeah, but I get the feeling he just kind of sits around and eats and drinks all day and is like, look at how great, look at what I've done, look at all that I have. Meanwhile, Abigail's in the background doing all the work and pulling all the strings, and she's like, you sent your guys to the wrong person.
yeah, I think that's what
The
she.
one that runs the household.
If I'd have known about this,
Yeah.
there wouldn't have been any problem.
Yeah, that's the feeling that I get from her. I also was reading the 200 loaves, 2 skins of wine, 5 sheep, 5. I'm thinking to myself, one person did this?
Yeah.
Yeah, but one donkey hauled.
Well,
That's some stout.
No, mine says on
donkeys.
donkeys, it's
Well.
plural.
Still.
Donkeys.
She makes me feel lazy. 200 loaves of bread, 2 skins of wine, 5 sheep. Think of how fast she got all that together, because she knew she had to get it to him and get it to him with haste before he came with his men.
Only 2 skins of wine now. That doesn't go all that food.
That's bigger than a bob.
I could have left a few boxes of raisins out.
Skins are big. Yeah, your raisins.
So
It's interesting that they include all the specifics about the food.
well, it's
All I know is there was no love
600.
lost here. She didn't sound like she really cared for her husband at all.
She was running the joint.
Yeah.
yeah, I don't think so.
That's what I feel like. I mean, I look at this and it's like, it's almost like there's 2 wrongs there, right? I mean, we didn't understand I personally didn't understand the customs back then. So I agree with what Carol said. I'm not sure that Nabal was totally wrong to just be like, you got 600 people that want my food. I think I probably would have reacted that same way. But then David's like, well, here I come, no, I want this food. And, we're going to all put swords on, so then you've got to have Abigail, the female, come in and say, wait, I'm going to stop, the first, another war here.
Mhm.
Here's the food and everybody can be quiet. I mean, it's kind of, I looked at it, I don't know, I felt like she was, peacekeeper here. I'm going to fix this problem. And
But she kind of, doing that, she kind of saves David. Because here he's going to do this, avenge this thing, really needless, right?
Right.
I mean, this is over, why, maybe there wasn't somebody else nearby, but shouldn't there have been some other place nearby? He could have gotten some food, maybe, but, it would have looked bad on David as future king of Israel to have slaughtered all these people over because he didn't get treated as a traveler and food, a normal custom, right? So going into being king and having that on his resume
Mhm.
probably wouldn't have been such a great thing. So she
So she helped him too.
She helps him and saves him from this what could have been a big mistake.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Although what she brought for 600 men wasn't even an appetizer. Wasn't enough. Unless somebody was out there blessing it like
Yeah.
5 loaves and 2 fishes.
That's really good.
Oh, they each got what, a third of a loaf of bread. And I don't know how much
Well, yeah, they
one
have
sheep would feed.
not much.
Well, it's not land.
Yeah, but still, it's about as much meat as you get from a hog.
Mm.
We're not talking about weeks, we're talking about meal.
That's 600 people and
Yeah.
5 sheep.
Well, she got together what she could, I think.
Yep.
And got out of there
Yeah.
before the evil, foolish guy found out.
But
She provided a lot of cakes though. That's typical. She provided the desserts, right?
Yeah.
One of the commentaries that I read said that it was customary if you provided a service of watching somebody's flock or protecting the flock, that created an obligation, even though it wasn't formalized. And you could expect to have your people fed and be serviced by the owner of the flock when you reported. And his Nabal's servants backed that up. David's men did protect the flock. So David, probably had technically a right to feel some umbrage, but to us today, that seems like a huge overreaction. There wouldn't have been a male left in the country if David had his way.
Yeah.
But for Abigail.
Been worried about it. What was gonna happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She saw it coming, so.
well, I think the servants were worried about it too, because one of them went and said, I know what I gotta do. I gotta go talk to the mistress, and tell her what's going on.
Yep.
And
He was one of those males.
and he did and he did confirm, he said, look, they've been very good to us.
Yeah.
They made sure we didn't lose a single sheep. And now evil's been decided against our master and against his house. And nobody can speak to him. That line stood out to me too. Do you ever get those people, that you can't say anything to them. You can't reason with them. Sounds like the ball.
Grew up in a household with one of those.
Mm.
My father's way or no way.
And so she's just not even gonna tell him what she's doing. Why tell him? I find this interesting. So the Hebrew in verse 22, when he says, if by morning I leave so much as one male of all who belong to him, the Hebrew literally says, if I leave anyone who pees against a wall.
Yeah. Mine said urinate.
That's what the Hebrew says. And he said it's a euphemism. I'm thinking, how is that? Yeah, that's not what euphemism means. A euphemism is supposed to be a better word.
Oh, boy.
But that is what it says. So Thought that was funny. You know,
Let's see what yours says in first.
they're gonna say covers his feet to, describe Saul going to the bathroom, but they're gonna describe the word male. It's gonna be one with these against the wall.
Whoever thinks studying the Bible is boring sure doesn't know about some of these chapters.
Norma said.
Norma said, whoever thinks studying the Bible is boring doesn't know their time. Yeah. Let's look at Abigail's speech more closely, because I think there's a lot in here that's important to note. Sharon mentioned Abigail's a peacemaker. You're absolutely right. Absolutely right. She is. But notice how she uses the language of theology, God language, in order to not even to appeal to David, but to tell him what has already happened. She says in verse 26, since the Lord has restrained you from blood guilt and from taking vengeance with your own hand. This is before David has responded to her to say that he's not, he's going to listen to her, that he's going to accept her gift. She is, as the kids would say these days, manifesting it. She's manifesting it, already making it a reality. And she's putting herself into God's story too. The Lord has restrained you. Okay, now who actually went and restrained him? It was Abigail, right? But so she's putting herself, she's seeing herself as an instrument of God put here in order to make peace, to stop the violence from happening. And I found that to be very, very profound. And we don't talk that way anymore. Not really. I just think it's incredibly masterful the way that she's done this.
She spread it on thick, didn't she?
She sure did.
Yeah.
Yeah, because she points out she recognizes this spirit in David, because in 28, please forgive your servant's offense, for the
Right.
Lord will certainly make a lasting dynasty for my master.
And that
David, right?
that also says, yeah,
Because
this is the
he
first
fights
time
the
we hear that.
Lord's battles.
So later on in 2 Samuel, Nathan, the prophet, is going to affirm this, that God's going to make you into a house, right? There's a whole thing where David, you make me a house, I'm going to make you into a house. And so, yeah, this is the first time though. And Abigail is the one saying it, that he's going to make you into a sure house, a dynasty. Right?
Mm-hmm.
But then she says, and the Lord will definitely make, and nothing evil will be found in you throughout your lifetime. Oops.
That she
Gonna mess that up later.
Yeah, that does not come true. That one does not. Yeah.
But she knew that Saul was pursuing, because she said, even though someone's pursuing you to take your life, my master will bound securely in abundant living. So back to our previous discussion, they should have known what was going on. That Paul probably was loyal to Saul.
It was like a rebellion.
Yeah.
You pick a side.
Was like the early days of the revolution, right? Your Tory or yeah.
Well, mine says, and he will fling away your enemies' lives as from the pouch of a sling. How'd you know that? They had to know who he was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
That
that metaphor is on purpose.
Yeah.
The sling.
Yeah.
Mhm. So, but you know, we don't though. I think this is a good speech to remember the next time that we have to maybe diffuse a conflict. Um, because she's appealing to God. She's not she's not begging him as much as in her speech she's kind of reminding him that if you do this you'll have blood guilt.
Like you're better than this.
Yeah. But even more than that, you know, God is watching out for you and God's going to keep you from committing this sin. That definitely had to speak to him. If only somebody was there to say that to him when he saw Bathsheba on the roof.
Well, it's also
You get her around a little bit more.
Yeah.
it's also giving him an out though, because
Well, he married her.
he
I know, but he needed her longer.
Yeah.
didn't he say something to, let's see. Because David basically made an oath that they were gonna not leave anyone
needs
alive,
to
right?
David
And
anywhere.
it makes an oath to God, right?
If
Basically.
my morning I leave so much as one meal of all who belong to it. Yeah.
Right, so he's made this oath, so now he's gotta have some way out of that. And she gives him that way out of that
Mhm.
by making her speech.
She also refers to him as my Lord many times and calls herself his servant. So,
She's very deferential. Yes.
yes, very.
That's the other thing. Yeah. Yeah. And then yes, the end of the speech, towards the end of the speech, she is, you know, pronouncing basically these prayers for him, these blessings that God will make you a short house, that you will be bound in the bundle of the living under the care of the Lord, but your enemies will be slung out of a sling. God has appointed, even affirming, you know, God has appointed you prince over Israel. It's the same word that was used way back when for Saul. When Saul was first anointed. And yeah, there in 31. When that happens, you won't have any cause of grief or pangs of conscience for having shed blood without cause. So exactly what you were saying, that could cause some problems for him later on. And she's reminding him of that. So.
And like his response at the end in 32. Well, we haven't got there yet.
Good. Do you want to go ahead and read that? We can talk about that. Yeah, his
Well, he already
response.
read.
Oh, well, I can read that real quick. David said to Abigail, "Blessed be the Lord, the God of Israel, who sent you to meet me today. Blessed be your good sense, and blessed be you, who have kept me today from blood guilt and from avenging myself by my own hand. For as surely as the Lord, the God of Israel lives, who has restrained me from hurting you, unless you had hurried and come to meet me, truly by morning, there would not have been left to Nabal so much as one male." And David received from her hand what she had brought him. He said to her, "Go up to your house in peace. See, I have heeded your voice, and I have granted your petition." So, yeah. So what were you going to say about what he says there?
Well, I just think it is, and then blessed be the Lord God of Israel who sent you
He's
this day.
yeah. So he's affirming what she's
Yeah.
saying basically. And restrained me from hurting you.
Well, yeah, he's gonna just probably saying, "Oh wow, I was about to do something really bad here."
Yeah. The other thing I noticed that was really, I found really important in verse 24, the very first thing she says is, "Upon me alone, my Lord, be the guilt." So there's that taking responsibility, even though it really wasn't her responsibility. She's taking responsibility for it. And there's so much examples of that in this book. When nowadays it's very, very common to, well, that wasn't me. It wasn't my fault. I didn't do that.
But it's interesting to me that a lot of times in the Bible, the women seem like property. And maybe she felt that way too, but obviously she was running this household. And sometimes we think that the women weren't, didn't have that kind of ability, at that time. There's kind of it's rare to find a woman that with this image, especially in the Old Testament. So this is pretty neat to read this. She was the one that was probably the reason he was rich. If the husband was a fool and he was wealthy, then somebody.
Isn't that saying behind every successful man, a more successful woman or something like that? She is the main character in this story. She's the one that's in contact with all the other characters. She's the main character. And yet you were right, that is a rarity for a biblical story, specifically in the Old Testament, especially in the Old Testament. So.
Well, and she demonstrates common sense.
Mm-hmm.
And it says back there, she was an intelligent woman. And didn't Jesus say in one of his parables, when you're on your way to the court to trying to make peace with your enemy to avoid going to court or whatever? And this is kind of the same thing. She's making peace with David to avoid the slaughter that was going to happen.
Jesus says, "Blessed are the peacemakers."
Yes.
She is a peacemaker. Well, let's kind of read the aftermath here, what happens. So who would like to read the rest of the chapter? Verse 36, 44.
When Abigail went to Nabal, he was in the house holding a banquet like that of a king. He was in high spirits and very drunk, so she told him nothing until daybreak. Then in the morning, when Nabal was sober, his wife told him all these things, and his heart failed him, and he became like a stone. About 10 days later, the Lord struck Nabal, and he died. When David heard that Nabal was dead, he said, "Praise be to the Lord, who has upheld my cause against Nabal for treating me with contempt. He has kept his servant from doing wrong, and has brought Nabal's wrongdoing down on his own head." Then David sent word to Abigail, asking her to become his wife. His servants went to Carmel and said to Abigail, "David has sent us to take you to become his wife." She bowed down with her face to the ground and said, "Here is your maidservant, ready to serve you and wash the feet of my master's servants." Abigail quickly got on a donkey and, attended by her 5 maids, went with David's messengers and became his wife. David had also married Ahinoam of Jezreel, and they both were his wives. But Saul had given his daughter Michal, David's wife, to Paltiel, son of Laish, who was from Galilee.
Right. Thank you. Sorry you got hit with all those names at the end.
But Saul could just was his married daughter or somebody else.
He's the king,
Evidently.
I guess.
He was the king.
Yeah.
Mine has a little piece here. It says 5 young women who served the newly widowed Abigail, who was beautiful, intelligent, and a prominent citizen of Carmel, accompanied her when she accepted David's marriage proposal. That Abigail had such a large number of attendants signaled her high status prior to marrying David. These women did not immediately enjoy a comfortable life with David, however. They joined his band of fugitives and led an unsettled life in the wilderness, where they endured capture by the marauding Amalekites until David and his men rescued them.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Which comes later in chapter 30.
Still, she leveled up from what she had before. In more ways than one, right?
Yeah. Probably, and at least the way she was treated
Mm-hmm.
by her husband.
So I wonder what happened to all of Nabal's sheep and goats. Wonder if he had sons, that that's where they would go, to his sons, or did Abigail take them?
That's a good point. That's a good question. Yeah, he could have had sons that, it says his household. So it was likely more than just him and Abigail.
Several.
Obviously there were servants, but yeah, there was probably a large family as well that he had. I'm not sure if some of that would have gone with Abigail and transferred to David. It does not say to us anything about a bride price or anything like that. And it doesn't tell us anything about Nabal's sons, if he had any.
Wasn't it likely in those days that women were not in the succession plan for wealth?
Oh.
Correct.
So it would be probably one of Nabal's sons.
So would have to go marry his brother.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So Chris, Michael was not with David at this time, obviously, since Saul was able to give her away to somebody else.
Yeah.
When did that happen?
Well, according to
It
my
just says here.
chapter 2,
Well,
or book 2, if I can see it.
It was mentioned earlier in Samuel here.
Well, in chapter 18, that's when he gets Michael,
Right.
all the foreskins of all those guys.
yeah, well,
And
she
then-
helps him escape from the house they were living in. Remember,
Exactly.
she sneaks him out
Yeah,
and she stays behind.
So she stayed behind.
and she ends up being
But she was married to him.
wife of.
He was a son-in-law of Saul.
Correct. Yes, she was married to David. He was Saul's son-in-law. She helped him escape.
Right.
And then he came back and Jonathan helped him escape.
But then
So they-
just gave her away, right?
Yeah, then Saul just gave her to somebody else.
And my Bible lists this in a as a number 2, because Saul had a wife named that same name.
Correct. This is not the same wife as Saul's wife.
This one's from Jezreel.
This
Yes.
one's from Jezreel. Yes. And apparently not the Jezreel that everybody knows up north, but actually probably closer to in the area of Judah. So David is.
So my Bible's notes saying in regards to Mike that, and this comes in 2 Samuel, that Michael had been married to David. Saul had arranged the marriage reward David's acts of bravery. Later, however, in one of his jealous fits, Saul took Michael away from David and forced her to marry Paltiel.
Oh, well, mine, when it's talking, it's got a paragraph or a section on Michael. It says that when she helped him escape, then he just kind of left her. He abandoned her.
Well, he was
He
running.
never came back.
He never
Yeah.
came back
Yeah,
because he was running.
because he was on the run.
So Saul just gave her off to somebody else.
Yeah.
She chose her family. I think she chose to stay with the family.
Yeah, but mine says go back to chapter 18, and that's 200 foreskin story.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's how he got Mike.
that's how he got her in the
Yeah.
first place. Yeah.
Mhm.
Then he had to run away. That was before he knew that Saul was coming after him.
Well, and I guess in 2 Samuel chapter 3, he demands her return
Yeah.
to him. But says it sounds more like she was a trophy than a beloved.
Yeah, there were some contentious times if you keep going.
Even though
I
she
kept
helped
going.
him get away.
When I read that Nabal, when she told him the next day, said his heart died within him and he became like stone. I kind of took that to be like he didn't realize what was going on and what was going to happen, and she probably told him what David was intending to do, and it paralyzed him.
He had a heart attack.
Something like that. Yeah.
Because then what,
Tell us, doctor.
10 days later?
Yeah,
He
maybe
was all the way dead. though, so 10 days later.
seemed to, I thought the same thing, like he had no clue when she told him, and he just kind of was in shock
Became
from it.
catatonic. Yeah. Went into shock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting when David was like, "Oh, well, the Lord struck him down." Sort of like David was still right. I don't know. I got that impression where David still felt like, well, I was right, and the Lord just took care of him for me.
I was avenged.
Yeah, I don't know how he felt about that.
Mm,
Yeah,
mhm.
I agree with you. I had the same feeling.
Well, when David heard that Nabil was dead, he said, "Blessed be the Lord."
Yeah.
Completed the case of my reproach.
I think you definitely see the human side of David, where even though, yes, the Lord loved David very much, David by no means is perfect. I mean, I think there's a lot of, you see a lot of just mistakes and maybe just poor choices, and even so I see that there.
Well, it goes back to only one perfect man ever walked the face of the earth.
Or woman.
Pardon?
Or woman. Just to make clear.
No person. Only one perfect person ever walked.
Person.
Sounds like you took that personally.
Don't bring that to the discussion.
I wasn't sure.
The stone day.
Abigail seems pretty smart though.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, right. She did, she gives this great speech to David, but also she waits. She doesn't tell her
Yeah.
She doesn't
husband
spend the ball.
when he's drunk and she waits till he's waking up with a hangover.
Well, maybe she knew how he would react, and
Yeah,
she might be the brunt of it.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
You talk about David has some faults, that we're starting to see. And having this sort of chapter juxtaposed with the previous chapter and then the next chapter where he does show restraint, where honestly we probably would have felt he was more justified to kill Saul than this. I'm gonna go destroy this whole household because he didn't give us some food. We probably would have felt a lot more justified if he had gone ahead and killed Saul. But he shows almost it seems Christ-like restraint in not killing Saul. And then you have this chapter where, but for the grace of Abigail, but for Abigail, he would have done something awful. So it just kind of goes to show that, you know, we can we could do well some days and we could do poorly other days, right? We can give in to our temptation some days and not other days.
Sometimes you just have a bad day.
Well, it's like I tell my son, there are no good people or bad people. There are people, and we're always constantly being given opportunities to do good things or to do bad things, and it's about what you choose. Now, I do think that the more that you choose certain things, you develop habits that are hard to break. But I say, even the worst person you know, someday they might be able to do a good thing. You always believe that somebody has that chance.
And I think of that story of Corey Ten Boom when that guard came to her house and asked for forgiveness. And she said that was the hardest thing she ever did.
I thought about what you said about oaths when he did that one verse where he said, that may God, whatever it was that
You said David and more.
if one may God deal with David, be it ever so severely, if in the morning I leave one male of all. That was not wise. And no.
It was pretty much the standard though for punitive action. Taking severe umbrage was you wiped out everybody. Here they were just going to pick on the males, though, I guess.
Yeah, but he's saying if I don't do this, God punish me if I don't do this. And
Yeah, it's pretty serious. So
Saul got in trouble because he didn't do that, which God told him to.
Right.
But how?
Here, God had told David to do that. David's just saying, okay.
I think the Lord was simply setting up Abigail for the pantheon of female heroes.
She was almost a prophet.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how much she knew, but she knew whose side to take. And the words she used sounded pretty prophetic to me.
Oh, you're absolutely right. Yeah. Any other thoughts on chapter 25? Something he said here about I don't know, just oh, I can't find it now, but it was a here it is. In our own time, it is often easier to confront great forces of obvious evil, like the Hitlers and the Stalins and the KKK and apartheid, etc., than to confront our own mean-spirited foolishness and the evil that results. It is easy to desire peacemaking and turning from vengeance as the work of diplomats and Nobel Prize winners. It is more difficult to rush like Abigail into the breaches of daily life where foolishness provokes violence and standing between the two is risky business. So I thought that was something I wanted to share.
It was risky for her on both sides.
Was.
I mean, David, who knows what he would have done? Husband was likely to. He was the image that they gave us. He would have turned on her too.
A lot of courage to do what she did. Because she didn't know how angry, she knew he was angry, but how angry. And being exposed to a husband like she had, maybe she thought, man, this guy's just gonna fly off the handle here and so forth. But then, and she fell at his feet and said, oh, me alone, my Lord, be the blame, and please let your maidservant speak to you and listen to the words of your maidservant. And David had enough sense or something caused David to stop and listen.
She was also beautiful.
I'm glad you said that, not me.
That's what it said, so.
He was prone to that too.
That didn't hurt a bit.
Do you think he heard what she said?
Yeah. You think his tail was hanging out?
Where's he been living out in the wilderness?
Focus on it.
With 600 men.
Yeah.
On that note.